Hello everyone, welcome to a new session of our device registration series. In this session, I'll be covering device registration detailed steps for federated domains, and also I'll be walking you through enabling Auto Hybrid Azure AD Join for federated domains. If you don't know me, my name is Mohammed Zmeli, and my goal is to make identity learning easier. So let's get started. If you have devices already joined to the local Active Directory and you want to extend them to Azure Active Directory, then you can configure Auto Hybrid Azure AD Join. For Hybrid Azure AD Join, local Active Directory is the primary authority for authentication, which means once users unlock their devices, their credentials will be validated against local Active Directory, since they are joined to the local Active Directory. And users on Hybrid Azure AD Join devices will have single sign-on experience for both on-prem resources because they are already joined to the local Active Directory, and for cloud resources and services because they are connected to Azure Active Directory as well. Also, admins can control the access to cloud services from Hybrid Azure AD Join devices if they are enrolled to Intune or by choosing require Hybrid Azure AD Join control. Supported operating systems for Hybrid Azure AD Join are Windows 10 and above, Windows Server 2016 and above. And for down-level devices, Windows Server 28 R2, Windows Server 2012 R2, Windows 7, and Windows 8.1. But for down-level devices, we require to have Auto Workplace Join package installed. Let's go through enabling Hybrid Azure AD Join. When enabling Hybrid Azure AD Join for federated domains, there are two main steps should be completed successfully. The first one is configuring service connection point, and the second one is configuring device registration claim rules on the federation service. And also when it comes to enabling Hybrid Azure AD Join for federated domains, there are two types of environments. The first one where the federation service is managed by AD Connect, and the second one where the federation service is not managed by AD Connect. In our video, we are going to cover both scenarios. And right now, let's get started with configuring Hybrid Azure AD Join for federated domains where the federation service is not managed by AD Connect. The first step is to configure service connection point, and to do that, we need to open AD Connect wizard. Click on configure, and we need to choose configure device options. Next. Here there is an overview about device registration. Let's click next. And here we need to sign in using a global admin account to fetch our tenants information from Azure Active Directory. Next. Configure Hybrid Azure AD Join option should be selected. Click next. And we need to make sure we have Windows 10 or later domain join devices option selected. And let's click next. In this section, we need to add our enterprise admin account, which is prerequisite to create service connection point under configuration partition. So let's sign in. Next, here there is some information about the federation configuration. Let's skip it for now and click next. Click on configure. And currently the service connection point has been created successfully under configuration partition. Let's exit the wizard right now. The next step is to configure device registration claim rules on our federation service. But before doing that, let's verify what kind of claim rules do we have on the federation service. To do that, Let's go to Server Manager, Tools, ADFS Management to open our ADFS Management console. Let me just minimize the Server Manager. Relying Party Trust, and here we can see Office 365 Identity Platform Relying Party Trust. Right click on it, edit Claim Issuance Policy. In this window, we see all needed claim rules that allows federated users to sign in to cloud services, but we don't see device registration claim rules listed here. So we need to create them. The best way to create device registration claim rules is to use ADFS help tool. So let me just close this one, minimize it, and let's open our browser. To open ADFS help, you need to type adfshelp.microsoft.com. Then we need to go to Online Tools, Azure AD PRT Claim Rules. And here we can see the wizard already started, and this helps us to configure all needed claim rules for our federation service, whether we speak about user needed claim rules or device needed claim rules. Let's start the wizard by go to Next, and here we need to add our immutable ID or to choose it. And to verify the current configuration for our domain, we need to use our AD Connect wizard. This is the easiest way. So let's open our AD Connect wizard. Click on Configure. And let's go with View Current Configuration option. Next. The immutable ID in Azure Portal equals the source anchor. So the source anchor currently is MSDS consistency GUID. We need to go to our wizard and choose this option and click Next. And in this section, we need to choose our user sign-in. Let's go back to our AD Connect wizard to verify what kind of user sign-in we have. And under user principal name, we can see its user principal name. So let's go back to our wizard, choose user principal name, and click Next. In this option, if you have more than one federated domain, you can choose yes. And after that, this is going to provide you with a PowerShell script you can run to grab all federated domains from your cloud services. And after that, you can create all needed claim rules for your federation domains. But in our case here, we are not going to choose this option. We will go with no, because we have a single domain. So let's go back to the previous step and let's go with the default configuration or the default selection, which is no. And currently, let's click Generate Claims. In this section, we can see all needed claims here. And those claims are for users and for devices for our federation service, basically. Now, to create those claims in our federation service, the easiest way is to copy the PowerShell script. So this is a ready-made PowerShell script. We just need to copy it. And let's minimize the browser. Also, we need to close AD Connect. We don't need it anymore. And let's open PowerShell ICE window as administrator. And in this section, let's paste the PowerShell that creates the claim rules. Basically, this PowerShell is going to replace all existing ADFS claim rules for Office 365 Identity Relying Party Trust with all needed claim rules that we saw in our Azure Active Directory portal. So currently, let's run this script. And we can see the script has been completed successfully, and there is a backup file has been stored on the device, so we can just revert the backup back if anything didn't work as it's supposed to or as expected. Now, let's minimize the PowerShell window and let's go to ADFS. Let's just hit refresh, right click on Office 365 Relying Party Trust. Again, edit claim issuance policy, and here we can see all needed claim rules. And currently we are good to go and to start device registration. Before we start with device registration on a client device, let's cover the second scenario where AD Connect does not manage the Federation service. Well, it's highly recommended to configure your Federation service to be managed by your AD Connect, because this is going to give you more options to update Federation service claim rules and also to update Federation service certificates using your AD Connect. In our environment here, AD Connect does not manage our Federation service. So let's jump in to our AD Connect wizard to reconfigure it to manage our Federation service. Let's do that by opening AD Connect wizard. Click on Configure, Manage Federation, next. And here we need to choose Manage Servers option, next. Specify primary server, next. Next, one more time. And here we need to add our enterprise admin account. So let's type it here. Next. And currently our AD Connect manages our Federation service. So let's click on Exit. If we went back to our Federation service, let's refresh Office 365 Identity Platform Relying Party Trust, right click on it, and let's go to Edit Claim Issuance Policy. From the previous step, we can see here all needed claim rules created successfully on our Federation service. Now, we want to remove those claim rules and we want to update the claim rules using AD Connect to cover the second scenario of environments where AD Connect is not managing the Federation service. So let's close this one. And currently I want to delete our relying party trust to retrieve the previous configuration for it. So let's delete it. Yes. Now let's open PowerShell and let's run import module ms online and connect -msol service. Let's sign in using global admin account. And we need to update our Federation service and create Office 365 Identity Platform Relying Party Trust using update msol federated domain command. So let's use it, update msol federated domain name, enter. Currently, the Federation service name has been updated successfully. And if we went back to the Federation service, refresh, under Relying Party Trust, we can see our Relying Party Trust. Right click on it, edit claim issuance policy, and here we can see the default claims that are needed to allow users to sign in, but we still don't have device registration claim rules. To create them, let's go to our AD Connect wizard. Configure. And we need to go one more time with device registration under configure device options. Next. Here there is an overview about device registration as we know. Next. And here we need to sign in using global admin account to fetch our tenants information. Next. Configure Hybrid Azure AD Join. Next. And we need, of course, to make sure we have Windows 10 or later domain join devices option selected. Next. In this section, we need to choose our forest and we need to add enterprise admin account here. Okay. AD Connect is going to create the service connection point if it's not created, but in our case here, it's already created. So it's going to override the service connection point configuration. We are fine with this. Next. And in this section, we need to enter local admin account on the Federation service server because this is going to create all needed claim rules. Without configuring AD Connect to manage the Federation service, we won't have this option here and we cannot update our Federation configuration using AD Connect. So now let's sign in using local admin account on the Federation service. Next. Next, one more time. Configure. It should take some time. Let me pause the video here and I will come back after it finish. AD Connect has been completed successfully. And right now, if we went back to our Relying Party Trust, right-click on it, edit claim issuance policy, we can see here all needed claim rules, especially the ones that are needed for device registration. And right now, our environment is ready for starting device registration. Now let's go through device registration prerequisites. To register devices to Azure Active Directory, service connection point should be created, whether under configuration partition, just like we did, or using client-side registry. Also, devices should have line-of-sight connection to domain controllers, and they should have the connectivity to the following endpoints under system context, and this is for current devices like Windows 10 and above and Windows Server 2016 and above. For Federation service, WS Trust protocol should be enabled for both device registration and PRT acquisition. And here I'm covering all needed endpoints from ADFS server in specific. For other Federation service, you need to check with the Federation service support. For device registration, it's required to have Windows Transport endpoint enabled on ADFS server. And you can enable either 2005 or 13 endpoint. And keep in mind, Windows Transport endpoint allows Kerberos authentication, which means it should be enabled only inside the corporate network, but it shouldn't be published through the ADFS web application proxy to the external. For PRT acquisition, if you want users to acquire PRT using password, you should enable username mixed endpoint on the ADFS server. And also you can enable either 2005 or 13 endpoint. And if you want your users to acquire PRT using Windows Hello for Business or using certificate, you need to enable certificate mixed endpoint. And again, you can enable either 2005 or 13 endpoint. To get device registration succeeded when you have Federation service, additional claim rules should be configured on your Federation service. By default, you should create account type, on-prem object GUID, and primary set claim rules to be issued during device registration. And if you have more than one verified domain, you should configure issuer ID claim. And additionally, if you are using immutable ID claim, for example, you are using alternate login ID, you need to make sure your Federation service configured to issue immutable ID claim as well. Keep in mind, although we configured the Federation service for device registration, we need to have local Active Directory computer objects in the sync scope, and this is mandatory for revocation purposes. For example, if we wanted to remove Active Directory device, if we don't have the device object in the sync scope, then we need to perform this task twice. The first one from the local Active Directory and the second one from Azure Active Directory. But if the device is in the sync scope, we need to perform this task only once from local Active Directory, and AD Connect is going to take care of removing the computer from Azure Active Directory. Also, if the computer objects in the sync scope, if there was any modification happened on the local Active Directory computer object, for example, the device has been renamed, AD Connect is going to take care of updating Azure Active Directory device object. And lastly, if you want to enable device registration for down-level devices, you need to make sure that you have WIA or multi-auth claim enabled on your Federation service. For ADFS server, this can be done using AD Connect wizard as we did before. In this section, let's cover device registration detailed steps for federated domains. Once device registration triggers from the device itself, device registration on the client tries to verify if the device is already connected to Azure Active Directory. And if not, it verifies the connectivity to the local Active Directory. And in this case, device should have line of sight connection to domain controller. And also it verifies if the device registration itself triggered under system context. If so, device registration goes to the second phase, which is discover, where it reads the service connection point information from the client registry. And if it doesn't exist, it reads it from local Active Directory configuration partition. And also, it verifies the internet connectivity to Azure Active Directory device registration service endpoints. If this succeeded, device registration goes to authentication phase, where device registration being redirected to the Federation service to get a valid SAML token. And after SAML token being issued from the Federation service, it's being sent to Azure Active Directory to start join phase. In join phase, device registration on client creates the self-signed certificate and push it under local Active Directory computer object under user certificate attribute. Keep in mind, device registration for federated flow doesn't rely on this self-signed certificate or to be synced to Azure Active Directory using AD Connect, because we rely on the SAML token that we acquired from the Federation service, where it has the needed claims for the device itself, like the device name and the object GUID. However, self-signed certificate still needed to be created, because if the device registration failed in acquiring token from the Federation service, starting from Windows 10 1803 and above, device registration is going to fall back to sync join, which means if the federated flow failed, device registration is going to trigger sync join. And in this case, we will go with the managed flow or the sync flow that we described in the previous videos. After Azure Active Directory receives the SAML token from the Federation service, it verifies it has been issued from a valid and trusted Federation service, and it does contain all needed claims for device registration. Then device registration generates device key pair and transport key pair. After that, it creates the certificate request using device key public portion and sign it using device key private portion. Then it sends the ID token, the signed certificate request, and transport key public portion to Azure Active Directory. Now Azure Active Directory verifies the token, confirms it is already valid, and after that it creates the device certificate, and also it updates Azure Active Directory device object in Azure Active Directory. And lastly, device receives and stores the certificate which has been created by Azure to the local computer personal store. Now let's jump into our Windows 11 test device to register it to Azure Active Directory using Federated flow. But before we start device registration, let's verify firstly if this device connected to Azure AD or not. To do that, we need to open PowerShell. And in this time, I'm going to open it as administrator. And let's run DSRegCMD /status command. As we can see here, the device is not connected to Azure Active Directory yet. However, it's joined to the local Active Directory. We can see the domain name and we can see also the device name. But the device is not connected to Azure AD yet. And also, we have the option to verify the prerequisites before we start device registration. To do that, we can use our DSRegTool. To download DSRegTool, we need to open browser and we need to type aka.ms/DSRegTool. And from this window, we can download it. And basically, device registration troubleshooter tool performs multiple different tests to verify the prerequisites and to troubleshoot device registration for all join types that we have. And it verifies the prerequisites for Hybrid Azure AD Join devices. For example, if there is any issue, it will tell us where is that issue and gives us some recommendation to fix the issue by ourselves without engaging support. To download the tool, we need just to click on this link, and after that the tool will be downloaded. I have the tool already downloaded on my test device, so I'm going to run it directly. So the tool is in temp folder in C drive, and now let's run DSRegTool PowerShell. Now we need to go with option number 3 to troubleshoot Hybrid Azure AD Join device. So let's go with option number 3 and hit enter. Currently the tool verifies the prerequisites for device registration, and it verifies the domain type, whether it's federated or managed domain, and it will verify the device registration service on Azure Active Directory. Now we need to sign in using device code, so all we need is just to paste the code that already copied in the clipboard by the tool. Let's click on next, and I need to sign in using this account. Continue. I didn't need to enter the password because I used this account before to sign in. Now let's close this window. And the tool currently completed the tests, and it says you can start Hybrid Azure AD Join registration. But before we start device registration, let's verify what tests this tool performed. If we scroll up, we can see the tool started, and we can understand what is the account that we signed in to the device with. It verifies the operating system version, and also if it verifies if the device already joined to the local Active Directory or not, which is a prerequisite. It verifies also if the automatic device join task scheduler enabled or not, and it reads the service connection point. As we mentioned before, service connection point could be created on client side on the registry or under configuration partition. So this is what device registration does exactly. It verifies if the service connection point created on registry, it will use it. Otherwise, it will try to verify it in the local Active Directory configuration partition. Currently, we can see the service connection point pointing to our federated domain, and this is the tenant ID as well. And the tool confirmed tenant name and tenant ID created successfully and configured correctly. Also, the device is able to contact our cloud device registration service endpoints under system context, which is a prerequisite. And currently, the tool verified if the domain is federated or not. And since the domain is federated, it verified the mix endpoint, which is one of the most important things that should be available and accessible by device registration service. And here it should be accessible under system context. As we said before, device registration triggers and completes under system context when it comes to Hybrid Azure AD Join. Also, the tool verified the Windows Transport endpoint, which is, as we mentioned before, also one of the most important prerequisites. And again, keep in mind, Windows Transport should be enabled inside the corporate network only, and it's highly recommended to disable it from outside the corporate network. Also, we can see all needed claims inside the SAML token. So the tool basically tries to grab a token from local Active Directory Federation service and it verifies the claims. And currently, we can start with device registration. To start with device registration, we can easily run DSRegCMD/join command. And as we always recommend, we should use debug switch because this is going to give us more information about the device registration process. So let's hit enter. And let's wait it some time. The registration completed successfully and we can see the device is connected to Azure Active Directory. So currently our device is connected to Azure Active Directory and it should be in good state. Also, to verify what happened with device registration, we can easily open Event Viewer. Here we go. So let's expand Application and Services Logs. Microsoft, Windows, and we need to search for user device registration. Let me open it from here and let's go with admin. The last event, as we can see here, automatic registration succeeded. This confirms the device registration completed successfully. But before we verify this, I want to scroll down a little bit. And this is the first event that written in Event Viewer. So here, the device registration started and it verifies the needed prerequisites as well. And as we can see here, domain controller is available and the system account triggered the device registration itself. And after that, we can see the device registration sent the discovery request to Azure Active Directory. And here we received the callback from Azure Active Directory. This is an indication about there is no connectivity issue with cloud service or Azure Active Directory device registration service. Also, we can see the session ID. Okay, then we can ignore this event. Also this one. And here we can see device registration triggered federated registration or federation join. And this is the join request. Join request number 10 means device auto federation or it went through the federation join. Let's go with the next event. And here we can see device registration completed in Azure Active Directory and we received the certificate. And this certificate being issued from Azure Active Directory to the device itself. And after that, we can see the device registration completed successfully without any issue. To verify that certificate, we can just easily open certlm.msc, which is the machine store. Let's open personal certificate. And this is the certificate that was issued from Azure Active Directory after device registration completed successfully. And the certificate has been issued to this particular device. And this device is the device ID on Azure Active Directory device object, and also it equals the local Active Directory object GUID. So for Hybrid Azure AD Join device, if we register the device multiple times, the device will have the same device ID because the local Active Directory computer object has the same object GUID. So we can close this one. Also, let's close the certificate console. Now, I want to run DSRegTool one more time. This time I want to go with option number 5, which verifies the health status for the device. Let's go with option number 5, hit enter. And currently DSRegTool verified multiple things, multiple attributes related to this device, and it connected to Azure Active Directory to verify if the device is enabled and if it is existing in Azure Active Directory, not in pending state, not stale, and also not dual state. And currently the tool tells us the device is connected to Azure Active Directory and it is in health state. And right now we are good to go to ship this device to the end user so that he will get the PRT or she will get the PRT once they sign into the device or unlock the box because it's in health state. There is another point that I would like to mention, which is regarding to device registration. When exactly device registration triggers? By default, every single time user signs into the device, or by default, it's hard-coded to trigger every 1 hour, or we can trigger it manually using DSRegCMD/join command. Last thing that we want to verify here, to go and open regedit. If we open regedit, we need to go to HKey local machine system current control set control cloud domain join diagnostic. And here we can see the registration type is Fed, which means the device registration triggered and completed through federation flow, not using managed flow as we saw before. So here we can confirm the federation completed successfully and the device was able to acquire the needed token from the federation service. And we don't have any issue with the federation service. Also, keep in mind, starting from Windows 10, 18.03 and above, if the device registration failed in getting the needed token from the federation service, device registration is going to fall back to sync join, which means if the claim rules were not configured correctly or for any reason the federation service didn't issue the needed token, device registration is going to fall back to sync join and to go through the sync join flow. In this case, we need to confirm and to make sure the device is in the sync scope and it is synchronized to Azure Active Directory. As a conclusion, you have two options when configuring Hybrid Azure AD Join for federated domains. The first one, if your federation service managed by your AD Connect, then you can use AD Connect to configure the federation service and to create all needed claim rules. Or the second option, where your federation service is not managed by AD Connect. In this case, you can use ADFS help to configure all needed claim rules if you are using ADFS as a federation service. Or if you are using a third-party federation service, then you need to engage your federation service support to guide you how to configure the needed claims for device registration. Also, keep in mind, if you are using Windows 10 18.03 and above, if the device registration failed in acquiring the needed token from the federation service for whatever reason, device registration is going to fall back to sync join. In this case, you need to make sure that your AD Connect synchronizes all your local Active Directory computer object to Azure Active Directory. Also, keep in mind always, it's highly recommended to keep all your devices in the sync scope even if you are using federation service. And this is going to help you in revocation purposes, and also it's going to update Azure Active Directory computer objects if any changes have been done on the local Active Directory computer objects. That's it for this session. Thank you for watching it and see you in the next one.